Rogue Radio. Now available on Mixcloud at mixcloud.com/Rogue Country. Keep it rogue.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Into the Van. I hope you guys are doing well and, keeping safe, keeping well, keeping occupied, listening to new music. I've really been digging Jeremiah Hatfield, someone I found through Rogue Country, has released a recent EP, and I've really been enjoying that. It's got a great weight and vibe to it that I really enjoy, and, tracks like Take Me Back Home and Marianne are real standouts for me on that, so go listen to Jeremiah Hatfield. He performs under the name J Hatfield. Go check that out on Spotify. In recent news, I got to do a live stream gig at the Ferret in Preston, and I got to do them with my friends Crapsons, who you may know from this podcast. You may know them from being just a phenomenal fucking punk band. They're a great duo. Go listen to them if you haven't done it. The live stream is available on my page, Crapsons' page, and the Ferret page. And yeah, go check them out. I've been really loving Idols lately. Their Ultra Mono record was a great one to come out, so I've been digging that. And Crapsons do such clever and witty songs with such a punk, rebellious edge that it's just so much fun to watch. And I was happy that my first live gig of the year was I got to watch Crapsons play. Between that, as I got to do a gig, I got to drive out of the Wirral and drive somewhere and drive back, so I got podcasts to keep me company. A shout out to the Proper Mental podcast with Tom and Chris, who have been doing really well with that stuff. Go listen to the Proper Mental podcast. I've also been enjoying Nightmare on Film Street, which is another podcast. And I'm telling you this because I wanted to, share the things I enjoy. And if you enjoy this podcast, you enjoy my music, you enjoy anyone's podcast or music, please tell your friends, tell people you think might be interested, tell your co-workers, whoever, because word of mouth is the best thing to get podcasts, music, films, TV shows into the hands of new people. So please share this podcast and share anything else you really give a shit about. As always, today's episode is brought to you by The Next Life, my debut record. There's not really much else I can say about this record except, I put my heart and soul into it. It's 9 tracks. We're working on album 2. So if you want to see more music from me, please pick up a copy of The Next Life. I'm going to drop a teaser here.
Am I free? And you ask yourself, am I free?
And it's available digitally on vinyl, on CD at mike333west.com. Go pick up a copy, support my music. I've got the tracks, the album title. I've got everything ready for what album 2 is going to be. I just need to record the thing now. So that's going to be a lot of fine tuning for this year. Hopefully 2022 will bring a new album, but it's all down to you guys supporting me. But without further ado, let's go on to the main course. Zach King is a guy that I think I first became aware of when we first connected. He's based over in Pennsylvania in the States, and he messaged me about gigs and things because he is a pillar of the music scene where he is, and he's really invaluable in not just booking gigs and promoting people, but he also has his own music. He's a really interesting guy. So I've been a fan of his for a while, not just because of his music, but because of his attitude and his optimism. And when someone gives a shit about the scene, they give a shit about the scene. And I need to talk to more people like that because it inspires me to keep going with, my music, with Rogue Country. And Zach King's a prime example of someone who's doing it for the love of it. So we caught up with him just after his birthday. And this is a really fucking fun podcast. This was a really fun chat. It was great to get to meet him and, talk to him about stuff and just shoot the shit. We got interrupted by one of his friends doing the Lord's work and passing him a beer. I'm going to put the video in at some point on my Facebook because it's fucking hilarious. But you know what time it is, guys. This is Into the Van with Mike West and Zach King. Welcome to Into the Van with me, Mike West. You've just shown me the cassette of your new record, and the single Vice came out yesterday on the 19th of Feb. When's the full record out?
Good question. I think I'm gonna put it out probably within a month. I think. I think that's how they do it. Like you put it out a little bit at a time. So. Yeah. We might put out one more song before we let it all loose, but yeah, the whole thing should be out in about a month, I would assume.
Cool, man. And what was you kind of thinking? Because cassette seems to be making a bit of a comeback now. That seems to be, vinyl's had its resurgence for the last few years, but I've seen a few different people like Harry Pedigo did his EP on a cassette and stuff. What was your process behind it?
Well, we first did when we started doing the recording process around the start of the pandemic, and so we were doing a least of all sound recording. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's like a thing they do in Brooklyn where they cut it directly to vinyl or whatever. But we didn't get to do that because of that, so we instead did some shut-in session, I think they called it, and we were recording it at a local studio called Shaw Ranch Studios, where I'm from in Pennsylvania, and we recorded it on a reel-to-reel to give it that vintage vinyl sound, and so the initial recordings were just me and a guitar and used for that. And I have a tape player in my car, and I hardly ever used it, but somebody had mentioned something about it being good on a cassette maybe too, and I thought it'd be worth trying it out because I could at least test it out,
Yeah.
And that's what it came down to. And then some other friends of mine, they took up the task of cutting it onto the cassettes, and it was really a shot in the dark. I had no idea that it was a thing coming back, and it just so happens to turn out that that's what's happening. And even a broken clock is the right choice a day. So.
Yeah, it's weird how stuff kind of resurges, and I think especially in the DIY community, tape has always had that kind of place in people's lives. I had a mate who had this really old fucking car, and it only had a tape player, and so we got a load of tapes off eBay. So it was Pearl Jam and fucking Alice Cooper or anything you could get on cassette. And I know a guy in the Netherlands who collects new music on cassette, so it's weird that people just have this kind of nostalgic feel for it, and it's also, it's a necessity. If you have a tape player in your car, that's the only thing you can fucking listen to. You'll get a cassette, but it's that weird Venn diagram of where it overlaps, and it just seems to have just hit at a really weird time in the last year or two where cassettes have had this comeback. It's cool, man. I'd like to do a cassette. I think I don't have anything I could play it on. I've got CDs and I don't have a CD player in my house or in my van.
That's how I feel. Most people that have bought the cassette from me say I don't even have a cassette player. And it kind of blows my mind, but I guess, I appreciate the support regardless. But it is kind of a dying thing, but it's very nostalgic. Growing up, I mean, I had a cassette for a couple years maybe before CDs kicked in, but it's pretty nostalgic. Definitely not the nicest form of listening, but nonetheless, it gives it a cool feel.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. And I think when you're saying folks will buy it even though they can't play it, it's just if someone really enjoys your music or wants to support you, it doesn't really matter if they have an outlet to support you, they will, which is always an interesting thing to see. But with the record and stuff, when did you start recording it? Way back when, or when did you start the writing process really for the new record?
Well, some of the songs, all the songs on there is 5 songs. They're all original songs. I started writing some of them years ago.
Mm.
The oldest one's probably like 8 years old at this point. I don't know. But the two newest ones on there are Ohio and Whiskey Words and Rhymes. And I probably started writing those both. Ohio's the newest, probably within the last 5 months, 6 months. And then uh, Whiskey Words and Rhymes is probably like, I don't know, maybe a year, 2 years old.
Cool, man. And is this your first record you've brought out, your first EP?
Yeah, technically, officially, I guess, a couple years ago, I did a release I did with a bunch of my friends, and we called it Kingfish and Friends, kind of before we were putting on shows under that name or anything like that. It was just a cool little project. First time I ever did recording or anything. I was still in college, and then I was in a band for a while called the Flat Wheels. It was like a folk rock band, and we did a full EP together. But yeah, this is the first time I think I took it like all the creative direction and yeah, I took the undertaking of putting it out, connecting with folks like you, so
Yeah. No, it's cool, man. And like, I always kind of like the first record because, like the same thing as myself is you have these songs that you've kind of been sitting on for like 8+ years. And then it's like you finally get to bring them out to the world. And then once you've done that, you also have the terror of now you've got a second record at some point to do, but you don't have you don't have 8 years of songwriting before then. So it's like, what will be like out now with that 8 year difference between songs? Did you find your writing style change or shift at all?
well, yeah, I'd say I'm getting a little better at it, but I wouldn't say it's changing much. I still struggle with that. Like you said, like now that they're all out, it's like, okay, all the cats are out of the bag, and what else am I gonna pull out of this hat? So lately I've just been trying to do that, like take the time to not really focus on having more material for release, but just getting more focused on the idea of just being in the habit of creating material instead of waiting for inspiration to strike, because that takes 8 years sometimes.
Yeah, man. And like, who were your influences for this record and what made you pick up guitar? Because like, I was listening to your EP and Whiskey, it had like a Christopherson vibe to me, like an early Christopherson vibe of that kind of storytelling, but it's not like John Prine's storytelling. Like, to me, Prine and Christopherson are like two of the greatest songwriters ever, and they both tell stories, but how they approach it is just so subtly different that you can kind of start putting songwriters in different camps. And I
Yeah.
always thought yours had a Christopherson vibe. Is he an influence on you at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love Chris Christopherson. I mean, the story songs, like the fragmented phrases kind of thing. Yeah, that's a huge inspiration. I wouldn't say, again, I happen into some of this stuff by luck, so I wouldn't say I necessarily like channeled that vibe when I like wrote that song, but now that you say it, like to an extent, there is a little bit of that inspiration just because of the story and the way it's put together. You know what I mean? Chris Christopherson doesn't say it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He leaves some space for you to fill in the blanks. And I always like that.
Yeah, man, it's a really like interesting thing. Like, I always found what Christopherson does is he does leave those gaps where it is then it's like a collaboration between what the listener is interpreting it as. I always really enjoy those type of songwriters. But who like made you pick up a guitar in the first place, or who were your like when you realized that music wasn't just music and you started actually tuning into like your own styles and tastes?
Oh, I mean, when I was a kid, actually, I listened to my dad was like hardcore country fan. So that's my grandparents and those folks. So that's where that comes from. My mom is actually very stark difference and like loves hip hop and R&B and all that. And so I definitely jive with all that too. And but no, like when I was a kid, I listened to all kinds of music, and I always, like as a young kid, could tell the difference between the instruments. Something was going on there. But it wasn't until there was a neighbor guy that lived next to me growing up. He was probably in his 70s by the time I met him, and I was probably 14. But he had a bluegrass band, and they would have jams over at his house. And just like seeing it in real life, watching the interaction between the folks, and like being a kid, didn't know shit about playing music, but I had a crappy guitar, and they brought me over, and they would just yell out, "All right, this one's in the key of G, 1-4-5, whatever," and they'd go into it, and I had no idea what the hell they were talking about, but it would just force you into it, kind of throw you in, and that was a big inspiration. And locally, where I grew up, there's a pretty cool scene, lots of artists, lots of music, and cool little dive bars where the people listen to the songs that you have to sing, and I'm thankful for all that, because if it weren't for that, I probably would have become discouraged along the way at some point. But I wouldn't say it was necessarily any one like famous singer or anything like that. I have a lot of idols, but my neighbor Roscoe Riesinger, who's since passed on. His birthday was actually 2 days ago. His was the day before mine, and he's probably the biggest inspiration as to getting it going, just because he's an old time picker.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Like I always say that one of my like biggest influences was my brother-in-law, because like I think I was like 12, 13. I just started playing guitar. Like my all-time favorite, like who I picked up a guitar for, was Ace Frehley from Kiss. But
Nice.
I was just kind of like bashing out chords. I wasn't really doing anything, and then my sister brought home this guy who was also like, he was a guitarist and he was in bands. And the second you see someone in real life playing it, not even they don't have to be playing stadiums. They can literally be playing in a fucking back room or on a porch somewhere, and you go, oh, this is attainable. This is actually a thing. And then they start teaching you stuff, and it opens up this whole world. I think is just an insane, amazing world to walk into, and it's those influences that you don't realize how like important they are. Like obviously, like I can go through like Tony Iommi, Christopherson, Cash, or whoever, but then it's like my brother-in-law was a huge influence, because he was who showed me the actual real practical side of things.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like you hit the nail on the head kind of with how I feel about a lot of my friends. It's like it's inspiring to have so many friends that are as talented or more talented, and it's awesome. Like it's very inspiring to be surrounded by people who encourage you to do your craft just by doing their craft. You know what I mean? Like, and in Central Pennsylvania, there's a lot of people that are kind of really doing something, and that's inspiring to see. I always say, like, it's important that your friends it's important to support your friends, but most importantly, it's important that your friends, remain your heroes.
Yeah.
Like, instead of the other way around, you know what I mean? Like, trying to be with people because they're somebody, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's such a big thing. And like I was talking to Eli Gardner, who I've just did a podcast with last week. He's in Minnesota. Minnesota has this great scene at the moment with folks like Luke Hendrickson or Tate McClain and the Plothounds.
I got Luke's record because of watching this show, man.
Thanks so much, man. It's such a fucking good record. But they've got that kind of scene. It's also what you've kind of built in like Central Pennsylvania with Kingfish and Friends. And in the UK, that's what we're trying to do a bit with like Road Country and stuff, is because there's like, you can say it's a scene, but it is people, like someone kind of breaks ahead and gets above the surface, and then everyone tries to like latch onto them to try and further it, instead of actually being friends and just being supportive and being like, wouldn't it be fun to do a show together? And
exactly,
it really hit home. I watched like the Heart-Worn Highways documentaries I watched, like the 70s one and then the Revisited from 2015. And like I just have that kind of ache of wishing I had that kind of network. But with you in Pennsylvania, when did you start realizing you had that kind of community there? Was it all just kind of organically, you were all friends anyway and realized like you were kind of into the same music and playing together and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, you're right though. That Heartworn Highway shit, dude, that's the vibe that everybody wants, man.
Yeah.
That's it. And like, I mean, kind of like back home growing up, like I said, there's a little dive bars. There's a place we all call Chicks. It was owned by a local legend fiddle player who, just happened to start this small little one-room bar in the '60s sometime. And they'd have live music, and it wasn't nothing fancy. You just sit around a table, like no microphones or nothing,
Mm.
just play. And like when I was 15, 16, we'd go there and you'd bring your guitar, and if you sit around the table and you could be loud enough that the folks in the bar could hear you and still, do their thing, then they would be able to listen to you, and so we kind of had a little thing like that, which is pretty cool, and I'm very, thankful for that. But yeah, a lot of communities don't have that, and that's it's a damn shame, obviously. But yeah, we had a little bit of something like that. It still goes on today. Chicks is still there. It's new ownership, but we've had the opportunity to produce some shows there, and we've met guys like Pat, Pat Reedy, and
Yeah.
Travis Egner had been there, and a couple other folks that we met along the way. And and that's the biggest thing, I think, is that it's like you're saying, one person will rise to the top and everyone wants to go up there instead of just kind of coexisting and camaraderie. Like the camaraderie is a big thing, man, like having that love for each other's music and the style and appreciating everyone's point of view, what they're doing, what they're writing.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I think that's what like you've kind of done with like your podcast, and because I remember we first started talking because you were obviously booking shows, and you reached out to me, and obviously I'm fucking dying to get over to the States to play eventually, but you do actively try and bring people into the fold, and it's not because someone's necessarily doing well, it's because you're a fan of them, or you just enjoy them as a person, you just want to connect. And that's what I think is missing from especially the UK scene, as I think no one's really trying to connect and actually just hang out and like play music. Everyone's just kind of like, well, we can hang out, but it'll be on a show that we're going to try and sell tickets for. And it's like, when do I get my fucking Heartworn Highways moment, man? When do I just get to sit around a campfire and hang the fuck out with people? And I've had it. You have those like glimmers sometimes that just make it incredible. And I think the more people realize that that's the goal, man. That's when you've made it as a, like, not even as a scene, as like friends, is when you're just shooting the shit and playing music and stuff. And that's what I'm really envious of in terms of like what you guys are doing, what the Minnesotan scene's doing. The Kentucky scene at the moment's just on fire.
Yeah, Kentucky's insane, yeah.
But how did you connect with Travis Egner? Because he's played on your new record and he played on my record as well. How did you run into Travis?
Well, we met Travis. He was actually playing with a band called Hello June, who's from based out of West Virginia, and they're like a alternative rock group, hell of a band. But he was on tour with them, and they're playing steel with them, and the whole band, great folks. It was Sarah, Whit, Travis, and another fellow named Jared. And great group of people. And we met Travis and just happened to stay connected online from that experience. And then I think when we got to doing this record, and I bought a pedal steel and I've been practicing, and but I wasn't confident enough to lay it down. And so I seen Travis was putting something out about it, and I just reached out to him, and he was happy to help out, which is really cool. Love Travis. He's a hell of a guy. Nice guy. And hell of a player too. He plays everything. He played bass, steel, he pulled accordion out his ass and laid that down on the song. Yeah, he's a hell of a talented guy, and so yeah, really appreciate him doing that. And you know, we connected too when I saw he played on your record too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how like these kind of networks or like dots like connected even across like, you know, different countries and shit. It's really like a beautiful thing that, you know, for all the evils of social media and the internet, it's these things that are like kind of show how important it is to like have these connections and have this ability to, you know, talk to a guy in West Virginia, send him some like rough tracks and then just lay something incredible down.
I know. I'm so thankful to like live in this day and age. As much as I hardly even knew how to log into this thing today, like, uh, you know, yeah, it's amazing what we can do. It's really something.
Mm. And like with like Kingfish and Friends and stuff, when did you start looking at a podcast and stuff? Because obviously meeting up and booking shows and stuff, and there's that real world connection to stuff, but you always have that knowledge that you kind of need, like not necessarily just a digital presence, but to have that opportunity for people online to connect to your stuff. When did you look into starting the podcast? Like, was it something you talked about for a while with your mates and stuff, or
Uh, no, we usually don't talk about anything for too long before it usually gets to be rolling right or wrong. And it, I, you know, to quite honestly, I'm not sure at what point we decided that we were going to do it, but the goal of Kingfish and Friends is just to exactly like you said, encompass anybody in the fold that we like, respect, love, want to support, promote, whatever. And yeah, and just try and help uplift them and showcase them and get more eyes and ears on what they're doing. And the podcast just seemed like a natural fit to do that. And actually, it's unfortunate that we haven't done any recent episodes, but a lot of our guests, we were doing them live in the studio. And, you know, a lot of our guests weren't able to travel in anymore due to cancellations and touring and all that kind of stuff. But overall, it was a great experience. And actually, my buddy Tom, who's, you know, kitchen table I'm sitting at here, he and I were just talking last night about revamping some episodes of that to just to again keep the pedal to the metal as far as representing the folks that we like and respect. You know.
Yeah, man. Because not only is it like a podcast and shows, but you also have, you know, a label with different folks on. Was that again? Because what I love about like what you guys do is the same thing from what, you know, like the Discord label in the 80s did, where it was just a group of kids who were a fan of the music, who played the music, and were like, no one else is supporting us, so we need to support ourselves. With like the label, how did, again, was it that just like a quick conversation and be like, we just need to start putting things out?
Yeah, that was again another quick one that just started rolling. A lot of I got some friends who are hella songwriters and great people and well respected in the community as far as music goes, and it just felt that they had limitations of their own. You know, like they could write the songs, they could, you know, do whatever, but they couldn't necessarily do all the booking or the recording or all, you know, whatever it comes down to, whatever the limitation is. And, you know, I hate to see that be the reason why somebody can't do what they love. So we just decided to take it upon ourselves to, you know, people like, again, that we like, love, and respect. We say, hey, if you've got a dream or ambition to do this kind of thing, like Chubb, he wanted to record some new songs that he had, and you know, we went up to a studio that a friend of mine runs, and we've been out there recording songs. We plan to release those songs under the Kingfish label, and we're facilitating promotion, you know, production, recording, whatever, man. We're trying to do whatever we can, dude. Yeah. Like, not that we know what we're doing, but
well, that's the main thing. And you always learn by doing it. Like, that's what I think a lot of people kind of either don't realize or kind of forget is you see people get a manager when they've got like 3 songs written. Yeah. It's like, why are you starting to pay someone to do something you can do yourself If you
Yeah.
Google a few things, you'll learn how to do it. And people just don't necessarily realize how easy it is to start
Yeah.
something, like how easy it is to start a podcast, or, even start a label, like with the label, because I'm interested in it in terms of like, I'd like Road Country to eventually do one. Was the studio time and stuff, like, you put up the money for them to do it, or was it through friends that you just managed to get the recording sessions through? And then was there a physical distribution at the end of it?
So far at this point, everything's kind of been organic, kind of family favors. Um, but the goal is that, we all we all sew together, we all grow together, so we we have plans to take some of these productions and make physical releases out of them through Kingfish and Friends promotion. Tuscarora Records is what the studio is called. So through our efforts, we plan to take those items and then promote them and produce them and sell them for the artists, give the artists, revenue from that. And yeah, just kind of, if they can entrust us to do that for them, that's the goal. Obviously, everyone wants to make a buck. But at the end of the day, like, it's not the goal.
No.
It's not the goal. I actually just seen a fella on the internet say it the other day. It's a old Guy Clark quote, but there's no money in poetry, and that's what sets the poet free. Like, that's the greatest thing ever, because if that's what your goal is, you're always going to be frustrated because there ain't no damn money in show business.
Yeah.
But I guess there is if you do it a certain extent, but for the most part, that ain't the goal. We're just here to, like you said, just like Road Country does, just like you're doing, like, I respect you guys for doing the same thing. It's just a matter of putting the boots on the ground and doing it. Like, if you don't have the ambition or the excitement to get involved and try and make something out of nothing, then no point in trying.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And I don't know if, like, you kind of felt it with your scene. What we've done is just like, no one else is supporting us, so why wouldn't we support ourselves?
Yeah.
Like, we're worth someone supporting us.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be no one who supports, like, me and my friends better than me and my friends. So why wouldn't we create a network to do that?
Absolutely. That's it in a nutshell, man. Like, if you love something, tell people about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they might love it too. And, like, again, like, it's all about organic growth and camaraderie. Like, if you guys can get down with hanging out and playing shows and not necessarily making any money, but creating experiences and connections, that essentially will pay the bills eventually.
Yeah.
But you can't get it all without doing nothing,
Yeah. Exactly, man. And with kind of, booking the shows, the podcast, the label, everything, was there anyone that was inspired to you necessarily on, like, a local level, or even, like I was just talking about Discord, like Ian Mackay in DC? Was there anyone or any labels or anything that you saw and were like, we aren't gonna achieve that, like, in a sense, but they're definitely like, I'm gonna take a few rules out of their playbook necessarily?
Well, I mean, yeah, along the way, absolutely. To credit anyone specifically, I don't have anyone off the top of my head that, and even to this day, though, I still do. There's a lot of folks not that I watch them to, as far as like competition or anything like that, but you can always learn something from somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And somebody's always going to do something a little differently than the way you would. And sometimes it works for you, sometimes it don't. And I think that's a big part of it too, is being willing to learn and grow in whatever it is that you're trying to do. And so, yeah, there's plenty of people along the way that we seen and watched as far as outside promotion. Like you mentioned, Kentucky. Again, the Kentucky music scene. When a couple years ago, I was playing in a folk rock band, and we listened to a lot of bands like the Fox Hunt and stuff like that. Darren Hackward and John Miller and those guys. They start to really rise up to the top, and it was really cool to see how it wasn't just, and then Tyler Childers, and it wasn't just like a one guy, a flash in a pan kind of thing. It was very much so community. It was a community uprising, I guess you would call it. And there's something to be said for that, because that didn't just happen overnight. It wasn't like a decision they made at the time.
No.
That's just how they are. They are very supportive of each other. They love each other. And they're all in it together, in it to win it, right or wrong, whatever they're doing. And there's something to be said for that, the camaraderie and the connection between the people.
Yeah, I think, because I like to sometimes, like, I like to look at music through, like, kind of like an analytical scope or a historical scope. And I think the same way people talk about, like, the Texas scene from, like, the 70s and the Red Day or the Austin movement, there's definitely going to be some look back on what the Kentucky scene was for this time period, especially affecting, like, country music and folk music, because, like, it must be something in the water at the moment, because there's so many. Obviously, like, Childers is, like, the biggest one, but you've got, like, people like James Reed, or, those kind of folks like Walter DeBar, who are just fucking, like, killing it at the moment. And just
James Reed's a guy I seen say the Guy Clark quote, actually.
Yeah.
I've been following him a lot. I like his music.
Yeah, he's got such a groove that's like, I remember I first heard him and was like, holy shit, like, there was a groove to his playing and singing that I'd just not heard before.
Yeah.
He's just a really interesting guy. I'll have to get him on this at some point. But who's kind of, standing out for you necessarily in, like, the Pennsylvania scene, or, the country scene in general? And
I mean, there's tons of folks. I mean, in central Pennsylvania, there's a lot of folks actually that I would say are really popping off, that and I say they're popping off because I know them and I respect them, and I really do believe in them. Most people wouldn't know what the hell, but they there's folks back home, like one of my good friends, Virginia Masland. She's a phenomenal singer. She's a phenomenal fiddle player, mandolin player. She, like, loves traditional bluegrass music, and she has a respect for the music and an understanding and education of it all that kind of comes with it. And that I think carrying that legacy forward is also something is very important. So I think she's one that really stands out. She plays in a group called Cumberland Honey, and her and Steph, they do all original music, and based in Cumberland County, Pennsylvania. And another friend of mine, Chubadiah, he's a old time picker I hang out with. If anyone follows me online, they've probably seen Chubadiah, but he's a legend in the area, local guy, got books and books and books of songs, and I'm very fortunate to call him a friend. And Chubadiah's got some great shit out that you can find on the internet, and more stuff in the works too. Yeah, but those are probably two people I would really point out in my area. Again, there's such a long list.
Yeah.
That if you follow us on Facebook, Kingfish and Friends, join the group, the creative community. We try our best to share and promote everyone from the area that's doing something creative, not just music, art, or whatever it is. And there's a lot going on, man. There's just so much going on. It's hard to cover it all. It's tough to be a guy like yourself, trying to cover it all.
It's that the thing isn't, like, in one way, it's like there's so much, but that's such a good thing. Like, you always hear people say how there's no good music anymore, and it's like, you are not listening to the same shit I'm listening to, man. You aren't looking in the right places, and there's so much good new modern artists coming out that you're like, holy fuck. Like Luke Hendrickson with his record, where it's like, how they aren't a household name is beyond me.
Yeah, it gets me. I listened to, we just traveled to Kentucky a couple weeks ago to see a fella named Aaron Boyd. And his record was one that You know, I love sad songs, sad and slow. That's my vibe. But Aaron, he's got a whole record full of sad, slow songs, and so it was just great, and it was great to connect with him. And like again, if you love it and you listen to it, drive the 8 hours to go and support it or whatever, because especially today's day and age, uh, that's few and far between, and to be able to support somebody to that extent, it means a lot to them.
Dude, like, you don't, like, I try and explain it to Europeans and Americans, but people won't even travel 40 minutes in the UK for a gig. Like, it's crazy how, like, the support network's not really there for a fan
Yeah.
base. Like, I live in Merseyside, so I live just over the water from Liverpool. And if the tunnel and traveling across the river's involved, people won't do it.
No.
And like people talk about having to travel 8 hours to gigs, and that in like America or Europe, it's just like, yeah, of course I'll do that. And in the UK, it's like, why are you playing Liverpool and not Manchester? And it's like, well, there's 40 minutes difference between the two. Just go to them. Like British people have it so easy. In 8 hours, you could get from one end of the country to the other.
Oh yeah, so they're just bred to be lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. Hell, and you'd think Americans would be the lazy ones.
It's weird, man. I don't know what it is with like UK audiences where if it's, and I've been guilty of it too. Sometimes like someone will be doing a show like 2 or 3 hours away and I'm like, fuck it. But
Yeah.
it's like, if I really want to see them, like I remember I saw Alice Cooper in Leeds, which is like 2 hours away from me. And it's like, of course I'm fucking driving to that.
Yeah, hell
Like,
yeah.
Like Nick Shoulders has been announced to play in
Yeah.
November in the UK. And it's obviously his
I saw
first
that.
time over here, and he's playing places that's an hour away and 2 hours away. And I'm like, well, of course I'm fucking going to them.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people will be like, well, he's not playing, in my city, so I'm not like, and there's not that travel for a lot of people in the UK. It's a really weird vibe.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, I would say that's probably the furthest I ever gone for a show is down to Kentucky, but anymore, it's just like, yeah, like you're saying, man, if you really want to go. And like especially like an artist like Nick too, like for instance, he don't even come around like on the East Coast or North, he doesn't come up like that area very often. And so he was supposed to play in Philly at one point, and I was super stoked and I was going to go, even though it is like 2.5 hours away. But yeah, you just got to do it. Otherwise, I mean, to wait for, especially where I live, ain't nobody coming to my town.
Yeah, man, it's a weird one, and it's even with musicians sometimes where it's like they won't travel outside of their area, which I can understand for people in the States. Like I remember Sean James told me where he once toured for like in Colorado for just a month, like just that one state. And it's like in the UK, if you aren't traveling like 40 minutes like plus outside, you just aren't gonna really get anywhere with it, because if you don't have a scene like you guys do in Pennsylvania, then you're just gonna fall on your ass. And it's a weird thing in the UK where people, either as musicians or fans, just don't travel, and it's trying to get them out of their comfort zones to do that.
And now you're with Rogue Country too. Like you work with that outfit too. So like, but from my perspective anyway, it looks like you guys are doing a great job at doing what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like covering the art, even with your Into the Van podcast. Like I see, and I've listened to you talk to like people from all over, and and like again, Luke, I listened to his record from your show and bought the record based off of that. Otherwise, would have never heard about it.
Oh, thank you.
So like you guys are doing a great job at taking the initiative too. Because it looks like it also looks like too, like guys like are coming a lot from over there, and doing a lot of touring. And I just always assumed that there was a strong kind of scene for that in the area.
There is, in some points, there seems to be like, but it has to be American. That's what I've kind of noticed. I don't know if it's.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is it strictly because it's American?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like I've found, like I do better in like Europe than I do in the UK, and I don't know if it's because if you travel outside of like your own like hometown, people just have a bit, like they just feel like you've got a bit more of a legitimacy to you.
Yeah.
While like if I play like just around here, people are like, well, he's not Like he's just from here. He's not
It's just
made it. He's
life.
not doing anything. He's just here. But if I'm like playing in the Netherlands, it's like, oh shit, he must be doing well, like in quotes, to be
Yeah, 'cause
playing
he's
over
here.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think especially like America obviously has this, like it's the birthplace of country music. Like you can talk about like it being inspired by Celtic folk and all that stuff, but you know, popular country music from the 20th century is an American genre. So I think there's just that kind of, oh, they're UK based, so it's not real country, and it's, you have that kind of issue, but then you have like obviously pop countries like really prevalent everywhere, and then there's a
Yeah.
lot of pop country acts in the UK, and then that's what is considered like country in the UK, when there's like artists like myself or Alex Tempest or Josh Bettis and stuff who are playing more traditional or different
Yeah.
types that are then like kind of shoved to the side because they don't fit into that one aspect, which is why I think Road Country's done so well in the 2 years. Like we've only really went at it hard from 2020, but we did so well because that kind of gap in the market, again quotes, is like not there. So it's like
Yeah.
we know people want to listen to us, and people
Yeah.
want to listen to that type of music because we do. We aren't in a bubble or a vacuum. We know other people will have the same sensibilities and they need an outlet for it, and it's not really been provided, which is what Road Country's done. And I'm hoping when shows can start up again and stuff, we can actually get some boots on the ground and start making real world connections, because online's just too ephemeral and too forgettable. It's not
Yeah.
until you get to a show where people will actually start to give a shit.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And ain't it a bitch that pop country's even taking over the UK? Like, it's everywhere, man.
Yeah. It's weird, man. And like the hardest thing was there's like the two biggest country artists in the UK are pop country artists. So it
Yeah.
was like these are the country artists that everyone needs to emulate to make. And I think they're called the Shires and the Wandering Hearts. I've not seen them. I think
Yeah.
that's the names of them. But they are like the pop country ones. And then there's a few other like small ones that are kind of emulating it. But to a lot of folk, that's not country. And I know that in the States, people wouldn't view that as country music because, you know, there's been that divide since fucking Hank Williams died about what real country is.
Yeah.
So it's weird in the UK that there's still this battle, and then there's like big festivals that only really put pop country acts on, and that's the only real big country music festival. So you don't have the kind of scene there for the people, but it's weird because Tyler Childers came over and then sold out like every date. So it's like, where the fuck are all these people normally?
Yeah. Where the fuck are they? Exactly. Yeah. Ain't that a bitch?
Yeah. Like I was in Manchester and it was like a sold out show in the Academy. I was like, I'm like, this is only 40 minutes away. Where the fuck are all? And it was like young people as well,
Yeah.
which shows the power Tyler Childers' music has now and like
Yeah.
the popularity he has, where it's like a big demographic of folks come out to see him. But it's like, where are these people? Normally, obviously, I'm not saying me and my mates are Childers level and people should come out to see us, but it's like, surely if you have that kind of interest, you
Yeah.
might be.
In some kind of off the beaten path style.
Mm,
It's like you're saying, if everything's so stark contrast, like,
yeah.
yeah, why aren't they interested in, when I went to college, there was this great arts place that did shows all the time, and they brought regional acts in, and so they didn't do a lot of local acts, and I
Mm,
always said that probably had something to do with it. There was really no connection between the outside and the inside, but they would do all kinds of regional touring acts, and it was behind, like if you were walking from the college, you'd get to the street where all the bars are first, and then behind the bars there's this old warehouse building, and that's where all these shows were going on.
mm,
And shows would happen in the bars too, but nobody would go. None of the college kids would go to these shows, aside from myself and a couple of my friends. Nobody would go to these shows. They would just rather go to the bar and listen to whoever's playing there.
mm,
And now the difference was you had to pay a cover at the show, and you had to bring your own beer at the show. But otherwise, it's the same experience, kind of.
Yeah.
Actually, probably a better experience, but it's hard to break people's mentality, too, of a difference between a party and a show.
Yeah.
So that's always a tough thing, too, is when you're putting on a show, is how do you get people to actually pay attention?
Yeah, man, like in your experience when you've put on shows, what has helped you kind of cut through the noise and stuff? Because obviously you've put on folks like Pat Reedy, who's phenomenal. I've done a show with him over in Liverpool and stuff. What's kind of been your approach when you've been booking and then promoting a gig?
I mean, I've been fortunate enough that most of the actual venues that we worked with, have very respectable crowds, music crowds. That when we do music, they're very much so there for the music. So I've lucked out in that sense that I never really had to deal with not a very disrespectful crowd or anything like that. Very much so there for the music. But we do try to promote that too. I mean, like just in the way we carry ourselves at the show too, pay attention and listen and, watch what's going on. And if someone's kind of getting uppity, just kind of let them know, hey, we're here to watch what's going on, what's being said and what's being played. House shows are always great. We love doing house shows because of that. It gives the opportunity to chillax and just see what's going on and not be distracted by all the hoopla of the bar or whatever. And yeah, but it is tough, sometimes you want to party too, and there's a time and place for that too. But it's definitely, I think, in our genre, like what we do, you and I, with more of the singer-songwriter approach or smaller bands, playing the listening rooms and things like that are much more beneficial, I think, in the long run.
Yeah.
The bars are just fun sometimes, but take them with a grain of salt,
Yeah, it's a weird one when you start, like, when you first start out, you think every gig is created equal. So you book in, like, the pub shows and the bar gigs, and you realize that you are just background noise.
Yeah.
Like I remember I had to, for a few gigs, I had to tell people to turn off the music at the bar.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, to play the jukebox, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Or like there was the TV on behind me.
That's
and it's like, just what the fuck? But then you realize that, like, and it makes when you find those listening rooms so much more valuable to be like, oh, this is, you know, one of those shows that, like, are not necessarily rare, but they are just outside of that bar and pub culture.
Yeah, it's hard to find. Trust me, there are not very many of them. But yeah, the biggest thing is like just a really cool, a friend or a fan or a friend of a friend, somebody that is interested in having people, strangers in their house, whatever, to play some guitars in their living room. That always turns out to be the best, I think, just because it's all organic, man, and just creating a connection between people, creating common ground between people, especially over songs, like that's a pretty damn powerful thing if you think about it. So when you throw the bar into the middle of it, it just sucks all the life out of it.
Yeah, man, I'm really hoping, like, we don't really have house shows over here, and I'm really hoping with how COVID's been threatening venues and how, like, scarce live music is now, I'm really hoping that we can kind of introduce house concerts as a culture over here and try and book a few things in, because they do have that quality to them that you just don't get anywhere else.
Yeah, we haven't had any house shows over here in a while. We are essentially taking the time to just kind of wait it out. You know what I mean? There's nothing we can really do. And COVID, we had a house show planned to do a thank you, sir. We had a house show planned. This is my friend Tom back here. He's snaking around.
I was going to say that is commitment to a
look at that. He was trying not to ruin the frame there, but he wormed that Yingling right over to me. That's a buddy. That's a buddy right there.
That is a real friend.
That's a buddy right there. That's a buddy.
Like, I've just been watching a fucking documentary on like horror films.
I was
It's
trying not to break my conversation there, or the concentration there.
Yeah, man, I've just been watching and like we got up to the episode about like ghost horror films. And I was just kind of like thinking about it before this podcast, and then I just saw like a body slowly like appearing behind you. And I was like, motherfucker, have I
first-
turned into one of these like found footage films?
I looked down and I was like, what the hell is going on back there? That's hilarious. That's hilarious. But no, yeah, COVID, I mean, it messed up that whole house show thing. We had some planned, but you know, they were all canceled just for safety reasons.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't want to hurt anyone. So all that kind of stuff's on hold. And at this point, we've just been really hunkering down. The cassette project was a long time coming, and it just kind of popped up recently. It's been done, and so it's like, okay, we should release it, I guess, you know, and put it out. And we have a bunch of other things that we're working on. And this has really just been a time, the past couple of months has been a time just to kind of really focus on getting some content ready and available. So that way we have our interwebs department covered when the real world kicks back off.
Yeah.
So that way we don't have to interrupt our real world activities to go back and do internet shit.
Yeah.
You know, because that's always kind of frustrating too. So we've been recording songs. You know, we're in the process of shooting some videos. You know, trying our best to put together projects for some of our other friends. Gene Nisley, you know, we call him the country music singer. We're gonna do a record for him. We're gonna do a record for my friend Chubb. We put out the cassette tape here for myself. And who knows, like at this point, man, I'm just happy to help anybody that I believe in. And just like so many people have done for me over the years, like, you know, a lot of old time people I met and just friends, family, you know, I hate to call them fans because hell, at this point, if you're a fan, you're a friend, you know, like.
Yeah, it's weird at this level because it's not necessarily fans, because it's like I know every single person who likes every Facebook.
Yeah,
post.
I connect with them, you know?
Yeah, it's like I know every single person by name. If they like buy something from the store, I'm like, oh, I'll, like, yeah, it's weird because it's kind of that, like at this level, it's friends and fans are weaved together. They're just friends. Like you don't have fans at this level because you aren't at any level where that matters. It's all about just, again, that community and support.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that can replace that, you know what I mean? Like it's like, yeah, I keep using it as a reference, but like places like Kentucky, places that have just network support of the artists in their town or in their community, whatever, like that's, if somebody tells you, man, I like your shit, you better be friends with that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because to be honest, he might be the only guy that likes your shit for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I just feel lucky that, you know, I have the opportunity to even play music semi-professionally. And that I have the support of friends that encourage me to support my friends. And yeah, I feel extremely lucky, like to even connect. Like again, I'm thankful for this internet to connect with folks like you. You know, I've even in the booking sense, it's been easy to connect with guys like Pat Reedy, Chris and Nate of Ryland Brooks, even Dallas Moore, Sarah from Hello June. You know, like if you're a fan of these people and you really can't help them out in a way, or you know, even help grow their fan base, whatever. I mean, by all means, if you're in the business, it's worth reaching out. You know what I mean? Like connections are created every day. You know?
Yeah, man, it's a really interesting thing because again, it's like if you're a fan of them or you enjoy their music, it's not that hard to support them. Like you see all that stuff going around Facebook and things where it's like 10 ways to support an artist for free, and it's like, they aren't hard things to do. And it's even if you're a fan of them and you want to put a show on for them,
Yeah.
That's, if you think you've got the demand and you've got the friend network to do it, you can do that. I remember I've put on one of like these shows behind me was with again, my brother-in-law was a fan of the band, was like, Mike's put on a few shows sometimes, let's connect. And we put on this fucking show, and it was like, it wasn't hard. We broke
Yeah. It's
even.
awesome.
That's a success in my books. It was a fucking great night. And
Yeah.
it's like, if you have a venue or you know somewhere, or even a house show, there's so many ways to support folks now that I think as independent music becomes so important, and it's so like, it seems to be like so pervasive. I don't know if it's just because we're independent musicians, so that's like what our timeline's filled with.
Yeah.
But you kind of see how that is what music is now, because of, you have like the Adeles and stuff at the very top, like Drake or whoever. But between that, you either have people paying like 300 quid for a gig, or like 6 quid for a gig. And if someone's paying 6 quid for a gig, you could put that gig on probably. You like, the independent artists are so attainable now that if you're a fan of them, you could probably book them for a
Yeah.
gig.
Yeah. And not that anyone's, looking to take advantage of anyone. Like, by all means, like, if what we can offer or what we can provide to you is not enough, or doesn't meet your needs, by all means, we're not asking you to break your back or bend over backwards for us. But if we can work together and we can provide you an opportunity that's worth your while and worth your time and your support, I think we're here for it. You know what I mean? Like, if and again, not saying that I don't like everybody's stuff, but like, we got to believe in it. You know what I mean? We got to like it and we got to love it too. But yeah, we want to make sure that we can help and support anyone we can. And so, like, especially during the first initial closings of the pandemic, I had a lot of people plan to play at Laurel Run Lodge in Landisburg, which was Chicks, and all those acts were canceled, and I didn't have long-standing relationships with these people, or even initial face-to-face relationship. But as far as business-wise, I knew all those people were taking a hit, and if I could do anything myself to help, obviously it's not the same, but if I can do something to provide for them and help them further engage during this process, I would do so. So we took it upon ourselves to contact those people whose bookings were canceled and say, we don't have a large following on Facebook or anything like that. And I didn't have the technical means to facilitate all these live streaming, considering these people were remote. But we offered to pay every single one of them. Hey, if you have the time and you're willing, we'll give you the login information to our account. You hop on there. We'll send you some money in the Venmo or whatever, and take it for an hour and see if our people will connect with it. And we took our time to promote those people. My favorite thing is to blast Facebook invites to bands and artists, to all my people, and they have no idea what the hell it is or who they are, but they like it anyway. Then a couple weeks later or something, or a couple months, somebody will be like, I found this band, man, and they're so-and-so, and they're really great, man. I just stumbled upon them on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, man, I sent you an invite to that. So, yeah, man, we just try to, whatever we can to support. Like, at the end of the day, we're going to go broke doing this shit regardless. So
Yeah.
That's what it's about, man. We're just here to support and help and grow anybody and anything we can.
Yeah, man, that's such the important and main thing, is like, the second someone's trying to make money out of it, to just not work with them. Like, it's always like, what are you coming at it from is always like, what's your intent is always more important than anything else.
Yeah, because like I said before, if you're going after the money, I mean, we're all going after the money. Like, money makes the fucking world go round. But fucking money ain't everything. Yeah. Like, at the end of the day, the Hardware Highways vibe, man. At the time of that video, those guys didn't have a lot of money.
No,
and
man.
if they did, they didn't give a shit. you know, they would piss it away because it was just paper.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about that. You know, I always love I don't know if it actually really happened, but in that Johnny Cash biopic movie, uh, he goes into the bank and tries to cash the check, and they won't cash the check for some reason. It's like a check for like $10,000. And he's like, well, then fuck it. It's just paper. And he just rips it. And they're like, oh, no. Like, but he's right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it ain't shit. You know, if you can't use it, it ain't nothing.
Yeah, man. It's such a crazy world. Like, I've just been watching the Atlanta TV show, the Donald Glover
Yeah.
series, and it's the same thing there, where it's like they got this check and then he got it into like $100 bills and he couldn't buy a single thing with it. And he was like, well, what the fuck was the point in all this grinding and all this hustling if I can't even spend what we've made?
Yeah. And that's like more real every day. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy to see how it's all driven by this unknown thing. It's just, yeah, goofy. I try not to get involved in that too much.
Yeah, man. It's always the middlemen who seem to get paid more anyway. It's a fucking weird thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, there's that.
but just going back to, you briefly mentioned hip hop and stuff. Have you seen the Notorious B.I.G. documentary that's coming out soon?
I didn't know it. I would love to. I'd love to watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a documentary coming out on Netflix. I think it's next month
Oh,
about
hell yeah.
Biggie. So that'll be a good one. But with like hip hop and stuff, like who were you listening to for like those?
Honestly, like I'm a huge Tupac fan. Love Tupac just because of the emotion.
Yeah.
Like there's a new artist, Meek Mill from Philadelphia, who also I would say is very emotional in his approach.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like he's crying like a country song, but you know what I mean. There's a bigger force. There's a bigger reason to, and there's a bigger reason to why he's saying the things he's saying.
Yeah.
You know, and I can relate to all that. You know, and I respect all of that, and I respect that approach. So I always liked Tupac, and yeah, I've definitely been a big fan of Meek Mill over the past couple years. Growing up, my mom was a huge West Coast hip hop fan, and Lauryn Hill. Love Lauryn Hill. So, but
Sick,
that documentary sounds sick, man. I definitely need to check that out.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to that. And there was a Patrice O'Neal, like the comedian. I don't know if you know him. Like a documentary came out yesterday about him because he died a while back, and he was a really fucking good comic. So I'm looking forward to those documentaries. But just with you mentioning hip hop, I was like, I need to remember that the Biggie documentary is coming out soon.
Oh yeah,
I love that type of stuff, and like I love what Tupac was doing. And I've only just started recently listening to Post Malone, and it took me ages because it was that he blew up that big.
Yeah.
And there was that song with Ozzy that I was just like, I'm not listening to this because
You got a song with Ozzy.
Yeah, man. And
Oh shit, I didn't know that. I mean, I know the guy's like superstar or whatever, but I actually have never. I don't think I've ever listened to any of his music.
Yeah, I kind of didn't listen to it again out of principle. Yeah. Like I try and be super open-minded about music, but every now and then a popular act catches me where I'm like, I'm not listening to that shit. Too many people are.
Well, like even speaking of hip hop here, like I'll say it on a country music podcast or not, I do have a guilty pleasure for 2 Chainz. Yeah. The guy's he's a character.
Yeah,
he's a straight up character, and whether it's real or not, again, there's something about that commitment. Yeah, that I respect that. You know.
Yeah, man. Even like with it kind of being like country music and stuff, like the NPR Tiny Desk concerts, T-Pain did a really fucking good one.
I see that T-Pain did do one, but I've never actually watched it.
Do you know what? I was like, how's he going to auto-tune at a Tiny Desk?
Does he auto-tune it?
He does a touch of it, but otherwise, it's just a really fucking good gig.
Damn.
Like, I was blown away by how good it was. But it was, again, like I had this kind of preconception of like Post Malone being, super popular, so I won't dig it. It's not for me. And he brought out that song with Ozzy, and I was like, meh. I'm still not bothered. And then I finally listened to it and I was like, God damn it, that was really good. Yeah. And then his album was actually really good. Hollywood's Bleeding, like his newest one. And it was, again, one of those things where it's just like trying to be positive and keep an open mind about music. It's like I try and do it for like all this like independent stuff, and then you still have that kind of jadedness when it comes to a big popular like
Yeah,
artist.
I know what you mean. We did see a thing from him on New Year's Eve, actually, now that I think about it. It was, I don't know what it was. It was something we were watching on TV on New Year's Eve, and it was Post Malone though. I think it was like Bud Light, like concert or something. But he did a cover. I think it was Alice in Chains actually. But that's the most I know about him, is that he's actually pretty good at doing some of these. Because I see on the internet, on like Facebook, I always see this one video of him doing Bob Dylan. Don't Think Twice. I think it is that he does. But
Yeah,
that's all. I never actually listened to his music, but I'll have to check it out because, I mean, obviously he's popular, but
yeah. Like
there has to be
at
a
the
reason.
beginning of lockdown, he did like some Nirvana sets because Travis Barker ended up being his drummer for a bit, and like they did
Oh,
like a
nice.
Nirvana set, which was pretty cool. But he seems like an interesting person because he
Yeah,
was
he
like,
seems like an interesting guy, like a very well-rounded in his
yeah,
musical understanding and approach. And I think that's the way to be.
yeah. And his like album Hollywood's Bleeding is about how he just got dissatisfied with LA and moved to Texas, or
Yeah.
it was Texas or it was Colorado. It was one of the two, but it was really an interesting thing. So if you check out that, but it's an interesting thing where like hip hop and things collide and the influences that you can kind of find. But you know, we're over the hour mark, and I don't want to take up too much of your birthday weekend. So you've got Vices out now. This will be released in a month or so. So I assume will your EP be out by then?
Yeah, we'll have the EP probably out by the time this comes out. So, hopefully it's available on your streaming, whatever,
Yeah,
worldwide.
man, I'll
web.
put the link to it all in this podcast as well, and all the descriptions and stuff.
Awesome.
But
Yeah.
what else have you got on? So obviously you're recording for a few other folks for your label and things. Is there anything coming up in the kind of immediate future that you're excited to be working on, like videos and things you're doing as well?
Yeah, we're working with some folks locally to produce some videos to use for promotional use for the studio and for Kingfish and Friends, for the artist. And just trying to do whatever we can to promote, our friends in our community that we believe in. And luckily we've been fortunate enough to connect with some folks outside the community that are starting to kind of look back in, which is great, so hopefully that all clashes and comes out in a good way.
Awesome, man. Well, I can't wait to hear it. I'll hit stop recording now. And that is episode 28 of Into the Van, Into the Bag. Please go check out Zach King's work, not only with his podcast, with his label, with his promoting, but his new music. It's really fucking brilliant. Travis Egnor, who did the pedal steel and the guitar work on my record, did it on Zach's as well. So even just, alone from the quality and the caliber of Zach's own songwriting and style, he's working with musicians who are also fucking incredible. So please go check it out. Please share this podcast. Please share the music and the podcasts and the films and whatever it is that you care about, because that is the only way that we get to make a difference in this world. It's the only way we really get to reach other people is through this connection. So until next time, guys, stay safe. Peace.